Episode 7, special guest Dan, or better known as Normal Guy Supercar. He is the founder, creator, and media personality for Normal Guy Supercar channel on YouTube with over 52,000 subscribers. Welcome, Dan.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Got you on screen. Perfect. Introduce yourself to my audience and a little bit of your background, man.
Sure. As mentioned, I've got a YouTube channel called Normal Guy Supercar. It was kind of accidentally started. This was never part of the plan. I never had a dream of being a YouTuber or anything like that. I actually was a software developer. That was what I was trained in. And for over 20 years, I wrote software applications and eventually worked my way up to where I was the chief technology officer and running software companies. Ran multiple startups, and some of them were successful, some of them less successful. And after doing that for over 20 years, I decided I've just always been a gearhead, and so I got I was always just very into cars, wanted to work on them. I've been wrenching on cars ever since I first turned 16 and got my first car. And so finally, after many years, I decided, you know what, I kind of wanted to get the ultimate in cars, which to me is a Ferrari. And so I bought my first Ferrari about 4 years ago. It was an F430, and did some work on that car and decided to start filming it. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And now, 4 years later, I have 52,000 subscribers.
Hats off to you, buddy. It's like, hopefully I'll be in that predicament in maybe 5 years. But who knows? Cool. So obviously you already answered my second question. Obviously was F430 was your first car.
First Ferrari. My first car when I was 16 was actually a 1971 Chevy Nova, and it was a horrible piece of shit.
2-door or 4-door?
2-door.
Hey, can't go wrong with that. If you really think about it, hey, it's just underneath it was the bones of a Camaro.
Kind of, yeah. It was the old unibody.
Yep.
It was, it was a Michigan car. I lived up in Michigan, so it was highly rusted and had lots and lots of stuff go wrong with it. And so that's why I started learning how to wrench on cars, is because that thing was always breaking.
Okay. So you would say that was the primary reason for you starting your YouTube channel, was to show what you were doing with your cars?
Yeah, I mean, when I first bought my 430, I wanted to do some work on it because I wanted to save some money, and frankly, I just wanted to work on cars. And so I started Googling, how to change the oil on an F430, and there were some documents, but I was shocked there was not a single video on YouTube. And so I thought, this can't be right. Like, I can't be the first idiot on earth that wants to change the oil in their Ferrari. And so I said, well, screw it. If I'm going to learn how to change the oil in the Ferrari, I'm going to film it. And any work I did on the car, I just decided, all right, let's just film it. And it kind of, that inspired this idea in my head, which was, so many people don't understand Ferraris, and there's all these weird myths about Ferraris. Like, people always say stupid stuff. Like, they come to me and be like, is it true that it costs $5,000 to change the oil? And I'm like, no, it does not. It costs a couple $100. And so I just decided to dispel these myths about Ferrari ownership, and now that's kind of the basis for my channel. Is as I like to say, it's all about supercar ownership experience. So telling what it's really like to be a normal guy owning a supercar is what the channel is all about.
Yeah, kind of like my aspect on Ferraris, because before getting to doing all of this, and I did a self-imposed retirement, used to turn a wrench for a living, and one of my customers had an F40, brought it in for some maintenance, track inspection updates. He wanted to take it on the track. So one of the things was he needed an oil change, and call up the local dealership, said, hey, need an oil filter for this car. He goes, yep, have one on the shelf. Okay, here, drop it into UPS and send it. He goes, good thing. According to my records, this is the last one in the country.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, that is one of the difficulties of trying to work on Ferraris is it's not always easy to get parts, and so that's one of the things that I think people don't understand is that well, I should say it's not always easy to get certain parts, but at the other end of the spectrum, Ferrari's so well established that there's actually third-party vendors available, such as like Ricambi.com and things like that, where you can actually go get the parts for the Ferraris, and typically they have them in stock. Although right now with the coronavirus stuff going on, it's everything's kind of out of stock and hard to get. So it's a little bit tricky right now. But unfortunately, you can't just like walk down to Napa. It's not like when you own a American muscle car where you can just go down to Napa, get a parts catalog, and order half the car right there for under a couple $100. Here you a lot of times have to order parts. They have to come directly from Italy, and so sometimes it takes a long time to get a part.
Yeah, and it's kind of like straight. I don't know if you've ever experienced this with the Ferrari, but have you ever had it to where like a manufacturer on a specific part decides to say, okay, we're discontinuing this part, even though it's like a common part. So it's not just. Yeah. I've experienced this. The reason why I bring this up is I've experienced this with. I used to work on a lot of Dodge Vipers, and one of the things that you would think that should be plenty of inventory, even though it was a limited production car, would be radiator hoses or complete sets. And it's like, are you kidding me? It's actually discontinued. I cannot find a replacement radiator hose for a Dodge Viper for this particular year. And it's like, and I'm like going, then I have to tell my customers, well, the only option we have is aftermarket, and we go with these colored silicone hose kits.
Yeah. No, there's definitely certain parts get discontinued, certainly with the older cars. I know for the F430, there's rumors that they're going to stop producing the taillights, which you don't think is all that big a problem, except that the taillight has a design flaw in it, and so they all break. Like literally 100% of them will eventually break. The vibrations of the car cause the studs to break because they're just plastic.
Right.
And so once that happens and all these taillights are used up, I don't know what's going to happen. That's going to be interesting.
Well, the way I'm listening to it, I'm thinking that's a great project there for a new video for you if you think about it. If you can silicone molds, vacuum chamber, colored plastics, maybe make your own molds.
Yeah, I have no skills in that department, but I do have some friends. So one of my good friends, Rex, actually makes a 430 taillight reinforcement kit that you mount to the studs, and it actually shores up those studs so that they don't break. And there's a couple other people that are making some kits and things for them, which if you have that car, it's pretty much a necessity to go do that, because otherwise you're going to be replacing these taillights, and they're not cheap. They're like $500-600. So and that's while they're available. So
right.
Who knows what's going to happen? And hilariously, it's one of those where the taillights in the 430 are literally the exact same taillights that are in the Ferrari Enzo. So the Ferrari Enzo has the same problem, except the Ferrari Enzo has a different parts number. So if you order the Enzo,
you pay more.
You pay a lot more. It's funny because it's the exact same taillight, just with a different part number.
Gotcha. Cool. Let's see. Let's move on a little bit. Now, before all of these current world events have happened, what resources would you find for like local car events in your area?
Sure. So there's in the Austin area, there's actually a Facebook group that is one of the biggest sources for me to find out what's going on. It's called Sweet Rides of Central Texas, and it's run by my friend Sean Jones. And I think there's, I want to say 7,000 or 8,000 members now, which is pretty cool. And so the automotive community in Austin is actually very, very strong. And so people will post in that group on Facebook, events going on, things like that. So that's one of my primary sources. But besides that, I'm also a member of the Ferrari Club of America. I'm a member of a small local group of car enthusiasts called Elite ATX. So like we'll sometimes just make our own events. You know, if we don't feel like going out into a big group, we'll just say, hey, who wants to go on a Sunday afternoon drive, or something like that, or hey, there's a cool restaurant that's 200 miles away. Why don't we take the back roads and go find a cool route to go get lunch way the hell out in the middle of nowhere. So mostly Facebook. I would say then, if not through Facebook, then through word of mouth or through these other groups that I'm a member of. But that seems to be the primary source for Austin car activities.
Definitely, it's like Austin is actually on my bucket list of cities to come visit because of all that you guys have offerings. I mean, like, well, you got Franklin Barbecue, so I got to go there for that.
Sure. Of course, the F1 track, it's incredible. I mean, I can't, it's as a car enthusiast, I think that should be on every car enthusiast bucket list, is to go see the Circuit of Americas, and even better to possibly get out on the Circuit of Americas.
Okay. Maybe down the road we can get together or something, maybe plan something. Maybe you can give me a little tour of Austin, if we can maybe arrange some shop tours, if that's possible.
Yeah. And if you come this way, of course, San Antonio is just like an hour away, so you can go see the EAG guys and stuff too.
Yeah, definitely on that. On visit Merrick and them as well. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. Would it be easier to fly into Austin, or would it be fly into San Antonio, or would it be Houston? Austin's
busier. Yeah, Houston, of course, Houston or Dallas would be the biggest airports.
Yeah,
those are 3 or 4 hours from Austin. Because remember, it's Texas. Everything's
big.
Really big. Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, I think my last time I went into Dallas was 20 plus years ago for a connecting flight to Minnesota. So that was a fun one.
Probably American Airlines.
Yep.
That's their big hub there.
Yeah.
Continental uses Houston. Or United, I guess. It's United now.
Yeah. So how do you think the car community in general is going to treat public gatherings moving forward?
I mean, I would say I saw a lot of resistance to shutting down the car events. People were very apprehensive about it, and it was a little bit frustrating and like I would say even a little bit disappointing that people weren't listening to the severity of the situation as it unfolded. I personally stopped going to car events very early on, and that's partly because as I like to call it, a half-assed celebrity, a lot of people want to shake my hand and meet me. And so I'm like, man, if I go to any of these car events, I'm going to have 50, 60 people shaking my hand. And so I'm at major risk of spreading the coronavirus. So I didn't want to do that. So I stopped going to car events as soon as they kind of said, hey, it's in the US, this is a problem.
Right.
But I think people are like, I'm sure just like you, people are desperate to get out of their houses, to do things. So I've already seen where car people are organizing drives that are out in the middle of nowhere right now. And arguably, that's a totally safe thing to do if you're just staying in your cars and not actually getting out and, seeing each other. You can talk from a distance or whatever.
Right.
So as far as like actual car meets, like Cars and Coffee and things like that, I think it's going to take a little while before those get ramped back up. I think the demand for it will be severe once the governments start saying you can do these things. I think people will be very willing and ready to go participate in them.
Yeah, I envision that we'll have them, but they're going to be... People are going to be, I think, more conscious to keep their distance, I think. Does that make sense?
Possibly. I hope that's the case. I think people maybe are going to be more likely to do like an elbow bump or a fist bump instead of shaking hands.
Or like a mid-air fist bump or something is what I'm thinking.
we're gonna go straight to the was it Demolition Man, where you like give the high five and then
Yeah.
don't actually touch,
Just as long as keep the 3 clamshells away.
Yes, yes. I mean, I think it's gonna. Honest to God, I think it's gonna be a long time before it's completely eradicated. So this could be the reality for over a year. I think they'll start releasing, letting people do stuff again, but it's going to take a while. This isn't, if you look at how previous world, global pandemics happened, they didn't just disappear overnight. They lasted a long time. This is unfortunately going to be a long time. So,
Oh, it's like I was watching last night, started watching last night. Philip DeFranco had 15 minutes with Dr. Fucci,
oh
and
yeah,
and he was mentioning that, because one of the questions was about, he thinks that this is going to be a cycle, because right now that South Africa, or in the southern continents of Africa, they're now getting into their winter season, and it's going to, start up for them, and then next it's going to be our summer, and then we'll be back to our fall, and welcome to round 2 until we
until they have a good vaccination. It's gonna, until there's a good vaccine out there, it's gonna keep going.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm kind of worried about. Is like, hey, I'm all for safety, everything, but I think I'm worried. They say, oh, maybe by end of June or July or August, we'll be back to normal, and it's.
I don't think it's gonna be that fast. I think I think we will be able to start doing more things by then, but I don't think it's gonna be back to normal. It's gonna take years to get back to normal.
Yeah, especially with what this particular issue that we had to have to deal with, and kind of like how we first met was last November. We were both met for the first time at SEMA, so I have a gut feeling that even though
big events like that,
yeah,
I would say big international or even national events are going to be apprehensive.
yeah,
I personally would not. I have no interest in going to SEMA this year at all. Even if they get it cleaned up by then, that many people in that small space does not sound appealing to me for quite a while. I mean, at least outdoors, I feel like there's a chance that like you can spread out a little bit. If it's in like a very large parking lot, but confined to indoor space and at that level of density.
Yeah, and especially also with, well, not to sound xenophobic or whatever you want to call it, a lot of these manufacturers are from Asia.
Sure, or any.
Yeah,
it's a global event. They're everywhere.
Yeah,
and that's just asking for trouble.
Yeah, so even though it's like, I've been reading up on the SEMA's website, and they literally put in place, and I think they're worried that if you're an exhibitor and you're worried about the situation that's happening, they're literally giving them until the beginning or end of September for full refund of their expenses for their booth deposits.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like, and I'm looking, okay, this is reminding me flashbacks of SEMA 2001, and it's like right after what happened then, and it's like when I showed up, it's like it was like a ghost town. And back then, they only had the North Hall and the Central Hall at the Las Vegas Convention Center back then. They didn't have the South Hall built back then, and I couldn't believe how many booth spaces that I saw where they were like empty. It's like instead of seeing carpet laid down, all you saw was the bare spots of concrete. So I'm thinking that's a scary thought, because obviously they're totally two different world events, but for that aspect, it's like, look, you're falling into what they wanted you to do, to be scared, is in my opinion, instead of showing up in business as usual again. But this time around, it's you're going with a microorganism that you have no control over. But oh well. Okay, let's see. Next question. obviously I'll put a video link to the first time we met. One of your videos, I'll put a card up so people can check that video out.
Sure.
Um, but this is kind of like a weird question. When we first met,
Mhm.
you were working with Shell for the small or larger automotive content creators, if I may ask. How did that come about? And any advice could you give for working with brands?
Sure. So I've managed to pick up quite a few sponsors. Shell's obviously, I would say, the largest company I work with, and they've been a pretty significant sponsor of my channel. That actually came about accidentally. It was not intentional. It's kind of a like multiple like jumps kind of story. So back, I think this was 2+ years ago now. Um, I don't remember exactly how. Uh, oh, someone someone contacted me on Facebook who was a journalist for USA Today, and they were looking to do an article about Ferraris and about Ferrari owners and stuff like that. And so uh, they reached out to me. They wrote an article about me,
Mm-hmm.
and then because of that, a journalist who works at the Austin American Statesman, a local newspaper here in Austin, they saw that article on USA Today, so they wanted to do an article about me. So I said, okay, sure. So we did another article about me, and then when that got published, there is actually a company here that's based in Austin that does Shell's social media marketing. So Shell outsources their social media marketing to this third-party company, and that company is actually based. I don't know if they're based in Austin, but they have a huge presence in Austin. And so one of their employees happened to see the Austin American Statesman article about me and thought this would be an interesting person to possibly do a partnership with. So um, they solicited me and said, "Hey, we've seen some information about you. We like your videos. Would you be wanting to discuss the possibility of doing some sort of partnership?" And of course, I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Shell! Like, of course, yes, I will absolutely come, talk to you guys." And so they brought me over to uh, their laboratories in Houston and showed me why their fuel is different, why their lubrications are different, and frankly, they kind of turned me into a believer because prior to that, I really didn't think fuel mattered that much, and because you always hear like, oh, all gas is the same and stuff like that. Well, it's true that pretty much all the gas is the same, but the additives are not, and so they kind of showed me how, yeah, Shell gas has better additives that you know don't build up as much gunk, that prevent wear, that prevent friction, that basically make your car perform better or perform like new, is I guess what they say. And so that really inspired me to say, you know what, this is legit stuff. The science is there. Like, that's, to me, that's the big thing, is coming from the computer science world and coming from data-based uh, you know uh, jobs my entire life. Like, everything I've done in my career has been data based. We make all of our decisions based on data, and they presented the data and basically said, this is real, it really works. So I believe that, and so now I'm a part of that. So but that's like Shell. That was very unusual. They're one of the only companies that solicited me, that turned into a bigger deal. Most of the companies I've had to solicit. So I would say when you're a small YouTube channel, it's very difficult to get sponsors. You might have to take on some sponsors that don't really offer much. So when I was very small, it was simple things like maybe I would get a free, you know, $50 tool or something. I don't know, like some small thing, and do a video for that company. And then as I get bigger, you could start getting more free stuff. So kind of initially, most of my deals were free things,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually it got to the point where they would actually start paying me. And what I found is, from a monetary perspective, as a creator, you want to pursue things that have a long tail, not just an immediate one-time reward. Like, it's nice to get a big paycheck, but I'm seeing the wisdom in trying to find affiliate relationships. So relationships where I get paid a commission or a percentage of each of the sales that are made based on me promoting some product, because then I'm interested in the success and sale of that product. So my goals and my sponsors' goals are aligned, and we work together, and that makes it much more interesting versus a one-time video. Like, it's, I think people's bullshit meters are really good, and they can smell when you're just a shill. Like, so if you're just trying to push something, if you're like, I've got X, Y, and Z widget, you should buy it right now. People are like, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Oh,
But
it's like with me. It's like I have the 2 affiliate links that you'll see in this video description, for one being TubeBuddy and the other being Morning Fame. Those are 2 products that I use for my SEO for these videos, and I stand by them. So,
yes.
And like you were saying, by me being an affiliate with TubeBuddy, the nice thing about their affiliate program is every subscriber who uses my link to sign up for TubeBuddy, and as long as they're a subscriber and continue being a subscriber, every month I get a chunk of the pie. So it's like the company's not hoarding all the money, one time pay you and you're done with it. It's like it's a reoccurring revenue stream for me. So
right.
And those are kind of affiliate program deals I want to find, but
yeah, I'm much more interested in that sort of stuff now. At this point, in fact, I make more money off my affiliate relationships than I do off YouTube's ad revenue. So those are far more important to me, and it takes it takes a long time to get those established, and so it's one of those things where you just got to snowball it. It just takes patience and time, and you just keep going and going and going. And like, the nice thing is, once you have an affiliate relationship, you can promote it again and again and again.
Exactly.
Versus a one-time deal, and I think authenticity really matters. Make sure that the products that you're promoting are relevant to your channel. So I'm not going to go promote, I always joke and say I'm not going to go promote Dollar Shave Club because I have a baby face and no one's going to trust me recommending shaving stuff, right? Like, because this face doesn't need a whole lot of maintenance shaving wise. So why would I do that? Like, no one's coming to my channel that's all about cars and thinking, oh, you know what, I should buy some razor blades from that guy. But if I'm promoting Shell or Ricambi America, that's been one of my big, longest term best sponsors. They've been with me for a very long time, and they sell Ferrari parts. So of course that's a marriage made in heaven, right? Like,
exactly.
When I reached out to them about doing a sponsorship, they said, believe it or not, they were already researching my channel and were about to draft up a proposal, and I didn't even know it. So they were about to reach out to me right as I reached out to them. So, and it was just like, we were both like, oh, okay, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing business together. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and each deal is different. So, like, for example, Ricambi doesn't pay me anything, but they give me free parts. So, and to me, considering how expensive Ferrari parts are, that's as valuable as getting cash. Because some of these Ferrari parts are very, very expensive. So I'm very happy to accept parts in lieu of money in the case of Ricambi America, versus like Shell, they give me, gas cards here and there, but I'm more interested in getting an actual check from them because that's what they can offer.
Yeah, and it keeps the lights on.
Right. So you got to feel them out. It doesn't hurt to ask. Always reach out to these companies. I would say, you got to kind of find the value of your channel. Make sure that you can present that value. So I've had to draft up these proposals, and I always make sure to word. Hold on.
You're still. Yeah.
Sorry, my computer went to sleep for a moment there.
No problem.
I always make sure to draft my proposals from the perspective of what I'm going to do to them to help increase their business. And I always explain to them that, and this is just a part of me having run companies for this long, is I understand what they're looking for and what they want out of a relationship. So don't go into these partnerships thinking, what do I get? Right?
Mhm.
Like, be ready to say, what do I get? Like, what can I give to you? How can I benefit your business? So remember, you are doing a service for that company. You are promoting that company. You are becoming, in many cases, an ambassador of that
Yep.
company. So, people now associate me very strongly to Recambia America. And I mean, I've even had people call or not call, but send me emails like as if I was customer support to Recambia America. Like, they're like, hey, like, I can't blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm like, they're my sponsor, dude, but I don't run their website, so I can't help you like
On that
troubleshoot.
aspect, yeah.
Right. So, but that's how strongly linked my channel is with Recambia America now. So, you have to remember that, like, you are an ambassador of that brand. You have to behave as such. So it's important to think of that. You can't, I think once I started picking up legitimate sponsors is around the time that I realized I probably had to throttle down some of the cursing and some of my more flamboyant videos that were maybe less friendly to advertisers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know exactly how you mean. Like yesterday's video, I was covering the incident that happened in New York, and
Yeah.
no matter what I did, limited monetization. No matter, it's like I'm reporting the news.
Yeah.
It's like, but I get it. It's not considered advertiser friendly, but I had to get the video out because one of the, like, if you read some of the earlier articles from that story, oh, if you guys want to see that video, I'll put a link card to it so you can check it out. But Road and Track had originally reported that the gentleman was the owner, founder of the Gold Rush Rally. Well,
Oh.
but then if you check out one of the links that because they did an article in DuPont Registry in 2014, and they listed that, so I think that's where they got it from. But I happen to know who the event organizers are for the Gold Rush Rally. I like to say that they're friends of mine, and I reached out to them for a comment. It's like, what can I say anything on this? I want to provide accurate information, and they told me, goes, he's no longer owner of the company. He hasn't been for a few months, and so I said, okay, that's what I'm going with, and they haven't spoken to that guy supposedly for the last couple of months. But then you see Rob Ferretti do his video, and apparently he has wrecked a lot of cars.
This guy or Rob
Yeah,
Ferretti?
no, this particular guy. I mean,
Well,
it's like,
hey,
whatever. But
yeah.
you have a book out, don't you?
I have two books. I actually have them right here.
Come on, free plug time.
Yes, I have the Ferrari F430 Buyer's Guide, which I published initially about 2 years ago, and then just recently I published my Ferrari 458 Buyer's Guide. And so one of the things that I do offer is this actually kind of happens serendipitously. I can't pronounce that. Whatever,
Right.
As I started doing all these videos and working on the car, people kept asking me more and more questions about buying cars. And pretty soon I realized that was an interesting opportunity to make money. And so I have stopped offering free advice for buying or selling cars. I will help people once they've bought a car. Like, if they say, oh, this is broken, how do I fix that? I say, okay, here's how you do it. More likely I say, go watch the video on how to do it that I've already done. But I stopped offering free advice for buying or selling cars because as of this point, I've probably had about, I'm going to say 300 to 400 people contact me and say, I bought a car because of your YouTube channel. Bought a Ferrari. And so when I started doing the math on that, I said, that's if you average $100,000 a car times 300 cars, you're talking many, many millions of dollars in transactions have happened because of my channel. And so I realized I should be charging these people instead of just taking hour-long phone calls and helping these people for free. So now I offer consultation. I help people buy these cars. And so after owning these cars for a while, I realized I could just distill my thoughts down into a book and say, hey, here's most of the things that are going to be items you should look out for, things to be aware of when buying this car, how to determine if this car is a good buy or not, those sorts of things. And by no means are these books meant to be like entirely comprehensive. They're meant to be a guide, right? It's to get you started, to really make you feel more comfortable buying one of these cars, because ultimately most people, when they buy their first Ferrari, unless they're just ridiculously wealthy, but if you're a guy who, this is your first time spending, you're a little bit nervous. You're up and be stuck holding this, shitty car that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I bought this thing and have this bad experience. And so people are willing to pay a little bit of money to have someone who's already experienced this, who already knows a lot about this, kind of guide them and make sure that they're not going to get screwed. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. That's what these books are about. That's what my consultation services are about. So it just kind of all ties them together, and it's kind of it's actually really rewarding for me, because I get to, these people buy really cool cars, and they're really, super excited. Like many of these people, their dream, like these people have been dreaming about owning a Ferrari their whole life, and for them to actualize that dream and me to be able to participate in it is really, really cool.
Okay. Well, that actually kind of brings up. So, have you ever had any? I don't know if you do it or you're entertained the offer, or if I'm understanding it right. So, let's say you have somebody who lives in California, and they want to fly you out, pay your expenses, put you up in a hotel to inspect the car. That's something you would offer?
Kind of. I don't offer like an action. So I'm not a mechanic. So I'm not going to say I will do a true PPI.
Mm-hmm.
I do in-person consultations, is what I call it. I have actually, believe it or not, been flown out to California to do exactly that. I've been brought to a few different locations to do exactly what you just described. Basically, someone has a car they're pretty sure they want. They're not 100% sure they want to get it, and they'll either fly me out or have me come out there to look at it instead of them, because they trust my judgment over theirs, because they've never looked at these cars. They don't know what they're looking for. Or they'll come meet me and we'll both look at the car together, and I'll say, hey, here's what you're looking at. And the reality is, a lot of times the amount of money they're paying me offsets itself more than what it costs in savings. So, for example, I came out to Florida to help my friend buy a Ferrari, and so he paid for me to fly out there and all my expenses, and then paid me a consultation fee. And immediately, I noticed that the tires on the car were too old, and some other things, some other issues with the car. And so we got them to lower the price and give a new set of tires for free on that car.
Was that
And
the
so,
Testarossa?
no, that was on the 4th of 8 that Carrie bought for Ryan.
Okay.
No, but the Testarossa, that was a pretty cool project. That was an amazing experience, going and buying that car.
Yeah, I saw that one. So I'm like, cool. And you also got to meet Tavares, I think, didn't you?
Correct. Yes, got to meet Tavares. Got to see his shop, say hi. It was pretty cool.
It's good. I like that aspect of that. Us, even though technically you could say we're competitors, some more bigger than others, but that we can all work together in these situations, just like what you and I are doing right now, which I very much appreciate you coming on to my small channel.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, like in YouTube world, how these collaborations work, because they're generally positive for both parties. So it's not like a like one gain and one loss, you know. So the people ask or suggest that I go do these collaborations all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, it's not that easy. You can't just call up a big YouTuber and say, "Hey, you know, want to have me on your channel?" And they're gonna be like, "Who are you?" Um, so it's not that easy. But um, you know, I've had other YouTubers give me shout outs, and there's no reason why they wouldn't if they were like if I'm presenting stuff that they can use in their videos. So that's the big thing is if you can provide value to their channel, there's no reason why they wouldn't give you a shout out. So it's one thing if like I guess if so think about it like there's a high probability that my audience and your audience has more distinct people that are separate than there's overlap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we do a collaboration, there's an entire probability that some of my viewers will come watch your video and some of your videos or viewers will come watch my video, right?
Right.
It's not like you trade them. It's not like I say, oh, you're going to get 10 of mine and I'm going to get 3 of yours or whatever. It's a net gain for both. And so the collaborations typically are positive for both. Now, if you have one channel that's very, very small and one channel that's very, very large, obviously it's harder for the small channel to provide enough value to the big channel for it to be worth it. So you have to think of things other than just subscribers, right? So it's like if I'm being invited on a big channel,
Mm-hmm.
I have to think of something other than the benefit of subscribers because I'm not going to bring my army of subscribers to come make their channel bigger. What I am going to do is provide an interesting piece of content that they can then use that will then grow their channel.
Perfect. So, if somebody wants to pick up your buyer guides, where should we send them?
Sure. So if you go to my website, normalguysupercar.com, and go into the shopping section, you can buy the PDF downloadable version of it for $9.99. If you want the actual physical book, you can go to Amazon.com. There are links from my website to the Amazon.com website where you can go buy them. So again, go to normalguysupercar.com and go to the shopping section, and then you will find my books and my
Perfect.
consultation services.
Perfect. I was also noticing, okay, you currently have the 458, but you also have right next to it 430 that you just picked up, or had it
Yes,
for a while.
I still
So,
have it.
so what plans are you going to be doing with the 430? Using it for content material, for how-tos, or is there an end goal for the car?
So the 430's purpose is to flip. So we are flipping the 430. I had this idea that first of all, I want to utilize my subscribers. So you know we've got 52,000 people who have said they want to watch my content. And so I thought, you know, that's a lot of people that could dig up and find good deals on these Ferraris. And the reality is, most people don't have the means to just go out and buy a Ferrari project car. And so I thought, well, if we can take those people, sorry if you hear it clicking, my dog's running around
No
downstairs.
problem.
But if we could get those people to find a good deal, find a car that needs a little bit of work, we purchase it, we restore the car or do whatever needs to be done and then flip it and then cut in the viewer that submitted that car 1/3 of the net profit, then it becomes a win-win-win. So my investor's footing the bill, he's the one actually fronting the cash,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing all the work, and the viewer found the car. So each of us gets 1/3 of the net profits after we pay off all the bills on that car. So I thought, you know, if we could do that, that's a totally sustainable model that makes a little bit of money, produces some really cool content. It gets someone a car that was probably needing some work. It restores that car and then brings it back into being a great, awesome car for someone. So this 430 was our first experiment in that, and kind of wanted to do a 430 because I'm so comfortable with that car since I've had my first Ferrari was a 430, and so I'm already really, really aware of what these cars need and what needs to be done on it. So I went into that car eyes wide open and could really determine whether or not it was going to be a good deal, whether or not we could make money on it, how much work was going to be needed to be done on it. And so I found a really good deal, bought that car. We're getting it restored right now. I should have it done in about 2 weeks. So it's actually up for auction right now on my website, normalguysupercar.com. You can register to bid on that car, and basically it's going to be it'll make us a little bit of money, once we get it all done, and someone's going to get a beautiful car, and one of my viewers is going to get a little bit of money, and in the meantime people get to see a cool Ferrari get work done. And then once we sell that car, we're going to do this again. So I want to keep doing this over and over, keep restoring cars, supercars that need a little bit of love, and splitting the profits with my viewers, because I think that's pretty cool. I think it's, especially right now, I'm sure some of these people are having a hard time with their jobs or work's slowed down. I know my channel has lost a ton of revenue, so I'm hurting on revenue badly. So I'm thinking, if other people are suffering, let's find a way that we can help out some of these people and give them a little extra money. So
Definitely
why not do it with a cool car?
Yeah, definitely hats off to you on for that aspect. It sounds like it's definitely a good business model. Case in point that I could say from my mechanical technician background, I knew of a shop owner who, this is back during, oh God, early 2000s. He came into some money, but what he was doing was, and I don't know if this is still the case these days, but he saw a trend where a lot of these supercar, exotic car owners would have these brand new cars, but then they would put them up for sale right when the first major service would happen. So he would wind up buying them, having them transported to his shop. He'd do the major services that were required, and turn around and put them back on the market flipped.
Yep, that is absolutely one of the things that I've been looking for. The problem I have is with my current garage setup, doing a true engine out major on some of the older Ferraris is not really logistically possible, because you need a lot of space and you have to be able to raise the car up pretty high and things like that. And frankly, just you really need a lift. I mean, you can do it with jacks and jack stands and stuff, but that's not going to be very easy. So
yeah, it's kind of like the position I'm in. It's like I want to kind of do similar to what you're doing, showing content to be able to film, wrenching on stuff. But the problem is, I live in California. I unfortunately have city ordinances where technically I cannot be wrenching whatsoever on any kind of vehicles at my residence. So what I'm slowly looking for when the time comes, or if I decide to start a Patreon account or something, and maybe get viewer back to help, cover costs of rent for a shop space. Maybe I could turn it into a shop, garage, studio for wrenching on project cars. Because eventually, yeah, I'd like to be able to go to the Coparts auction, find a project car, turn around, rehab it, and find a needy home, like maybe a single mother who needs a car to get to and from work or something, that I could sell the car, make a little profit, but not over gouge the person, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, and that was the cool thing is with the 430, for example, that we're working on, is I don't need to sell it for a crazy high price to have it make a little bit of profit. Like unlike a dealership, I don't need to make some specific margin to pay my bills, right?
Right.
I mean, basically, when my investor and I talked about it, if it makes $1, we consider that a win. Like it doesn't have to do very well. So,
right.
And the other thing is, because I'm not a dealership, all the work I'm doing on it, I'm being very transparent with it. Like I'm documenting all of it on my channel. I'm showing exactly everything I'm doing to this car. And as I've said to my viewers, I'm making this car as though if I were to be keeping it. Like I'm getting it ready to go, taking care of everything that I know of.
Right.
So I'm, even like, for example, there was things that I didn't want to do, but I had to do. So I had to put new tires on it because the tires were 2013s and 2014s. So I consider any tires over 5 years old to be unsafe.
I saw that Instagram post of the mobile service you had come out to your house, and
yeah, exactly. So that's a huge expense. I mean, that's well over $1,000 that I didn't really want to spend, but because I want this car to be ready to go, I'm doing that. So same thing with the headers. I'm having to replace the headers, even though that's a couple $1,000, because they're broken, and I don't want someone to get this car and then immediately have to replace the headers. So it's just going to be ready to go. Everything's done, and it's just someone's going to get an amazing car, and that's what I want to do. Each time we do this, I want these cars to be just ready to roll. They're good. Like, and I want that level of trust to remain with me. Like, I want that level of transparency and honesty. So I'm trying to present it from a different perspective. Like, I'm not being like the shiesty car sales guy who's gonna promise you the moon and all this sorts of bullshit that they do. Trying to upsell you and all this crap. It's like, no,
Right.
I have no motivation to do that. I have no reason to do that. And frankly, if I did anything like that, people would shun my channel. So
Yeah.
I can't do that. I have to be honest. That's kind of been the basis of my channel. So I need to continue to have that level of trust with my viewers. And that was also part of the inspiration for this whole thing. Is my investor said, basically, my viewers trust my judgment and they trust what I'm trying to do, to a point where if I'm the one buying and selling this car, they're going to be more comfortable buying that car from me.
Okay.
So I've been around long enough. I've been doing this long enough. I've been showing how to do this stuff long enough that people trust what I'm saying more than they're going to trust some random dealership. If they go out and find some car that some dealership's got, how do they know that they didn't do some bullshit to that car? I mean,
Right.
it happens all the time.
True. Okay. Almost near wrapping up. Let's say, is there a particular supercar, hypercar that you would like to get behind the wheel and cover on your channel that you haven't yet, like your Great White Buffalo, so to speak?
I mean, I just love cars.
But do you have one particular car that you haven't had the opportunity yet to get your hands on?
I would say, if there's probably two cars that if I ever can cover those cars or review them, I'll consider my life complete, which would be like a LaFerrari and an F40. I figure LaFerraris are kind of like the ultimate in technology, and the F40 was the ultimate in analog drivers cars. And so I think those two cars kind of represent the ends of an era, right? I think modern cars have gone, like, they're going to turbos and stuff. So I would say give it 5-10 years and they'll probably be like the ultimate turbo car. And so there'll probably be some other iteration that's going to be even more crazy, and imagine like a SF90 type car with turbos. I mean, that's going to be just batshit crazy fast. But I think the F40 was so analog and just a driver's car. I've ridden in one. I haven't had a chance to drive one. And then just I think the LaFerrari is just supposed to be just absolutely ridiculously amazing to drive. So I would like to try that.
So there you have it, guys. If you own one of these cars and would like Dan to come out and review it, hey, I'm sure his YouTube comment sections are open, or you can go to his email address and contact him. Hey, throwing it out there for you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, if it happens, you never know.
Hey, unfortunately, the F40 contact that I know of that has it, I've lost his number. But I'd say, hey, maybe I can reach out to him. But it is what it is.
Because I know a few people that own them, but it's like to ask someone to drive that car is, it's kind of weird, but you just don't do that, right? Like, I don't want to put that on someone. Like
Well,
it has to be.
I understand you want to be respectful to them, but it's also that the cars are meant to be driven. So hopefully, if they share the same passion as you, they might understand that. But then that's where I kind of go. It doesn't hurt to be polite and ask.
Right. It's a very you have to be very sensitive with how you approach cars like that because someone's entrusting you with multiple millions of dollars of their property.
True.
If someone said go drive my LaFerrari, that car is worth more than all the houses on my cul-de-sac combined. Yeah.
Oh, trust me. Tell me, I know that aspect, but it kind of goes back. Not as expensive as a LaFerrari, but more, like I said, with my Dodge Viper aspect. A lot of 9 out of 10 times, our customers would bring them to us for routine service, but they also would need to have their emission testing done. Well, here in California, one of the things that the emission systems checks is to check all of the OBD2 readiness monitors. And
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times, these owners would not have a battery tender on their cars, and they let the batteries die down. And
Yes,
they all get erased. So it's like, so they bring it to us. Okay, fire it up. I put my scanner in, check. Okay, need some driven miles. So the boss would say, here you go. So I literally had, for at least with Dodge Vipers and Corvettes, a drive routine that I would do. So I put about 15 to 20 miles, and pray to God by the time I completed that drive cycle that most of the monitors would take place. And in all honesty, that is the one thing I hated the most. It's like when I would get one of these jobs, it's like, we can't charge enough for what we have to do through to make these cars ready to pass emissions. But that's my own personal gripe.
A lot of people, are like, "Oh, it sounds awesome to be, able to drive other people's cars," and it's nerve-wracking. You are being entrusted with a lot of responsibility.
Oh,
so
you hit the nail on the head. It's like, for me, it's like I'm constantly with my head on a swivel, constantly looking around for, the guy who's not paying attention because they say, "Ooh, shiny car," and it's like, but then again,
exactly, yeah. I and not only that, you're not familiar with the car. You're not totally comfortable with how it behaves. You haven't really experienced it. And so when I do these reviews, I've been criticized. People are like, "Oh, why didn't you floor it up to 150 or whatever, something like that." And like, number one, that's disrespectful to the owner.
Yep.
And number two, I'm not gonna jump in someone's car, have literally driven it 3 miles, and then just put the pedal to the floor and pray to God that I go straight.
right.
No, like I'm not going to do that. Like all it takes is one time for things to go wrong, and then it's all over.
Exactly.
So
and
I try and be very respectful to other people's cars when I am entrusted to review them. So
that's like the same thing with me on my aspect when a customer would bring in their car for a complaint and put them in the passenger seat if they want me to drive to see what the issue is, try to duplicate it, and I'm going to say, you hear the horror stories like, back today, like a technician takes a customer's car around and abuse it. I will never. Yeah,
it's happened. I've had a technician totaled my 04 Cobra. I had a Mustang Cobra. They took it out for a joyride, lost control, and totaled it.
So you're familiar. You've heard those stories of.
I've experienced it.
Yeah, exactly. So.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's definitely horrible, but that's why I would say, okay, put the customer in the passenger seat, and it's like, okay, you want me to go up to the speeds that you want? If I'm going to abuse a car, the owners of that car is going to be in the car with me. So there's no hiding of it.
Right. It's different if they say, hey, go ahead and flog it a little bit. That's fine. But, when I've had, one of my friends let me drive and review his McLaren 600 LT, and basically he just drove by, handed me the keys, and said, "Hey, we'll be back in a couple hours." So when that happens, he's got 100% faith in me that I'm not going to do something dumb to that car.
Right.
So I need to respect that.
Exactly. Cool. So what platform? So everyone can find your channel. You're on YouTube, Instagram,
Yep.
Twitter?
Facebook, Twitter. I don't really do much on Twitter, but Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Obviously, YouTube's the biggest. So it's Normal Guy Supercar on YouTube. It is all one word, Normal Guy Supercar on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay. I'll put links in the video description for everybody to find Dan's channel and check him out. And when you check out his videos, tell him that you heard about his channel if it's your first time, that I told you to say hi and check out his channel. And I appreciate you coming on board, Dan, and hopefully things will change in the world events that we'll be able to hook up again sometime.
Yes, hopefully everyone's staying safe and not shaking hands.
Exactly. Mid-air fist bumps.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll do my outro now. So be sure to hit that subscribe button for my channel. Hit the like button. Share this video. Leave a comment down below. And if you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, or Google Play, hit that follow button. And see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dan. Bye.